On this episode of One Man, One Hand, and No Real Plan, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels ain't got nothing on these rockers. One thing I have to do now that I've got the passenger door fixed is I have to move the latch pin up. So I've taken the die grinder and enlarged the hole, and then when we get it all set where it needs to be, I'll go ahead and patch it. So I've got this all cleaned up right in here from the old patch panel welds, and then I've also got the old patch panel cleaned up. And what I think I'm gonna do is just come in here like this and figure out where best to put it to get the gaps close. Now, to make my filler piece, I just wedged a piece of thin cardboard in behind there, and I like a pencil on this one. This is what we need to cut out. And this is that extra strip I cut out of the door when I was working my way up for the door skin panel. And it'll be perfect because it matches the gauge of steel, obviously. But it's in good shape, it just needs to be cleaned up. In order to get that filler piece in and get it gapped right, I undid the tack welds on the patch panel because basically we put it in, figured out how much of a patch panel we needed. Now we're taking the bigger patch panel out. I'm gonna tack this new piece we just cut out on the bandsaw to the bottom of this, and then we'll re-put that on there and trim whatever we need to make it line up right with a small gap, and then weld everything in. So my final gap on the passenger side, after getting the cab corner pretty well put in place, turned out pretty good, I'd say. I've got the passenger rocker panel halfway wedged in here, and this one had some significant damage before, so I'm not 100% sure how best to mock it up. I think I've got it pretty well put back in shape, but I need to... This angle here is too steep and it's going to hit the door, so I got to lay it over a little bit. Set it in where it needs to match up, like right there. I can see that I bent it too far up in here. It's too far down, so I need to bend it up a little bit to help the transition, because in the back corner so when I set the front end right with the proper orientation, you can see how far out it sticks, and it's mainly because of this fold over along here. So I'm gonna bend that back up a little bit on the front and start seeing if I can make it tuck into the body and roll right. To get this part to tuck in better, rather than just having that bend like that, I think I'm gonna flatten this crease out along here and then bend this further up. I also need this part here to curl more this, like it's right now it's like this, and I need it to curl more down. And so I'm gonna use this round bar and try and just slowly work that down and see if I can get it to curl tighter so that it matches the contour along. You can see that crown now that I was able to roll in there. So now I can roll this back underneath and it'll actually, instead of, I don't know if it's hard to show, but instead of it going like this, it's going like this. It's coming off like this. So I needed to make it to where I can roll this. Basically, I need to bend this tighter so this rolls down like it's supposed to. You can see like it had the impact was right in here and it really messed up this whole section. And I have this up like a whale tail instead of a teardrop in like it's supposed to. And so I think the only way I can get that down might be with a little heat, because I need this whole section is turned like that, and I need the whole thing to curl in, like to follow the cab. Instead of doing this, I need it to go like this. Not quite that severe, but that is a tough shape to get. I decided that rather than going with heat initially, I would mark, you can see it as it comes, especially if I'm right over it. You got the nice sweep, and then instead of continuing on like this at this point it breaches up, and I need it to go along here. And I'm thinking that maybe the best way to get it, I was gonna heat a little bit and try and bend this, but this has got to go somewhere. This is just such a damage in. It flares out, and this whole thing was just smashed and up, and so it made a point out here and pushed the whole thing that way. And I've got to figure out a way to get this point to go in, but keep this point exactly where it is and pull this whole top part in. So what I did was put this out in space from where that bend was, and you saw me just absolutely strike it right here, the direction I needed to go. I knew that it was going to stretch this up in here, but I was really chicken to put any heat or put any sort of cuts into it yet, and I can shrink this hopefully out. But you can see when now it's got that shape we're after, and I don't have this coming in, and it really went in, you know. Let me show you how popped up that is. It popped it up quite a bit. Now I've got to work that part out. Back in the day, they used to do a tuck and fold where they would just fold that over and hammer it flat, but I think I may try a few other things first before I go that drastic. I should say that's the whole point of this hammer, is it's a shrinking head. I also have a shrinker stretcher I may try first, but we'll see. I decided to cut it. I cut it right through the highest point and just the length of the bubble, and then I'm gonna lay it down over each other and then weld it and then smooth everything out. To give you an idea of how much it actually stretched when that accident happened, that used to be a straight line across there, and that's how much it stretched. Not only for that whole overlap, basically it starts overlapping here and getting thicker and thicker, and it also stretched that metal in that far, and that's why it was bowing out like that. Now I've got the shape we want, and I've got this about flat. I gotta bend the overlap a little bit. Probably what I'll do is just cut, well, I'll take a pencil and I'll trace a line, show me where to bend it down just a smidge, and then I'll weld it up, and we'll even all this out and see how it looks. And after all that work, you can see we finally got that shape we wanted, and it follows the contours exactly right. There was a little bit of a bulge there I'll have to tack up, but these lay nice and flat, so I'm going to weld it and then go ahead and see how, if I can put that taper into it, the bend that started all this, and go from there. But I'm really pleased with, let me see if I can, I mean, it ain't the prettiest, I'm not claiming it's perfect, but it actually flows how it's supposed to now. Maybe it'll look better from this side. You can, yeah, you can really see it there. Now it looks like it's supposed to look, and I just gotta get her finished up. I've got it tacked, and I don't want it to get too hot, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna figure out where my bend needs to be now, just by sticking it up and having that straight edge go underneath. I'll take a pencil and simply draw my bend. And once my bend's done, then I can finish welding it. It'll be a lot stiffer. I don't have a large press brake, I just have that little one. And so what I'm going to do is take that line and use the edge of my table . Say that's pretty dang good considering what we started with. And now just sort of tack it in place. So this is how the seam where I ended up cutting the top panel turned out once it was welded and grounded off, and I think it disappeared really well, and I'm pleased with how that's going. Hey look, I found a nut! This is a moment I've waited for a very long time. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching.